Okay. Oh, I have some humans. Hello. Hi guys. Oh, I'm seeing love hearts. This is a good sign. Hi. I apologize for being a little late. I had to get my coffee, coffee first. Hi. It's funny because this is somewhat, what's the word I'm looking for? Somewhat usual for me to be communicating via this medium, except I'm used to seeing people's faces and hearing their voices and, being in conversation. So it feels a little strange to just be looking at my own face right now, I must say. But I'm going to do my best to let this be as interactive as possible. Okay. Well, first, I just wanted to speak on why I decided to do this live. I thought it would be a nice opportunity to say thank you for all this wonderful new support that I've found, all these wonderful new followers, because of your love of Dr. Crane and of Maeve and their love story, or their somewhat tragic story as well. And also, I thought it'd be a good opportunity, especially for the actors in the room who are interested in my process as an actor, but also as a coach and how they kind of interplay. Lots of questions regarding me coming back to Shorty. I cannot say. I cannot confirm nor deny. That's that. So, thank you for all the messages that you wrote in, all the questions. First question: how do you prepare for a role and get to know a character beyond the dialogue on the page? There's a lot of different sort of processes and ways in that actors use, but a big one for me is I don't think of character. Now, you might find that kind of strange as you're talking to me right now, and you kind of, we're kind of talking, and you're like, whoa, she's a little different to Crane, right? For me, and the way I approach it, rather than thinking of character and me as the actor having to sort of become someone else, it's more about me as a whole human being, myself, my consciousness, my soul, if you will, stepping in to this imagined world, right? And in this imagined world, I have a different name. I also have different memories. I have a different history. I have a different timeline, if you will. And so my job is to take the clues that are given to me in the script and in the character briefs. Yes, they are still called character briefs, in discussion with the directors and or producers, and sometimes even other cast members, right? Hey guys, hey. Be with me instead of Maeve. Sorry, you're so far away. Maybe, but you're so far away. Okay, where were we? I use that information from the script and from the briefs and from discussions with creators, right, to harvest that and to basically tune myself into that world. Yes, it is about reading between the lines, but it's more about the way into that. So I'm not feeling like I'm the actor when I'm inside this world. It's like this is my truth, and I feel like me, but yet I've tuned myself into these different wants and needs. And so with Crane, for example, so much of it is in the way that I would speak, the actions I would take, and then also that history. Growing up in a Navy family. This is going to be difficult. I'm such a tangenter, and I'm just getting distracted by all of your comments. Okay, so I've just learned you're hilarious. Well, yeah, I try to make people laugh, and sometimes in class I'll try to make people laugh, and then they won't laugh, and then I'll be like, guys, just laugh, and then they laugh. Oh, and how I do that is I explore different ways of informing that. So a lot of research and watching interviews and creating imagined memories, so that basically, like I talk about in class, we're in the business of make-believe, right? The only person who has to believe it is me. Then I get to have a real experience. A lot of you said wonderful things. You're like, oh my gosh, you really made me feel like it was real. Or I'm kind of paraphrasing there. But that's because it was for me in that moment. How do I not manage to lose myself and get out of the role? Well, that's the thing. Because instead of me becoming another person, I as one whole being am stepping into another realm. That all belongs in that container of that dimension, that alternate reality. So there's kind of there's a safety and a protection to that as well, because I will step in, I will be in that place, I will activate, I will psych myself into it, I'll do all the work to learn the conversation in a way that serves me so it really can unfold. I really mean it when I say that, guys, talking about the work and the imprint method. I don't know what I'm going to say until this split second before I say it. Just like right now, that is all a real organic experience that is happening. The good news is that it all lives in this alternate reality. So all I need to do is step out and be like, cool, well, that exists there. And I will liken it a little bit to a hangover. Sometimes you will have I know I'm really trying so hard to focus, can't you see? Shame you don't want me to focus. You just want me to answer these questions. Do I accept actors of all levels? I do. I absolutely do. I do have to curate each class, each intensive. Intensive is an introduction to the work. 5.5 hour classes over 6 weeks. The reason I structure it in that way is that it takes time to actually to reroute habits. It really is about rerouting these subconscious habits, right? We have subconscious habits just right now in everyday life, and then actors have subconscious habits. My job is to help actors get out of their actor brain and into their human brain, and actually to reroute their focus into all the things that come very instinctually to them in everyday life, in everyday conversation. So with the lines and you, oh no, it's gone. Well, first things first, there are no lines. There are no lines. There's just what I want to say, and there's what's being said to me. I will translate it to that, because otherwise I'm like giving myself a hurdle that I have to then do a backflip over. It's all about really rerouting this into into a very human experience. Well, it is a really ADHD conversation. You're right. Wow, it's quite intense. Spontaneously speaking very well. Thank you. I'm trying very, very hard. I just have to roll with it. So much about this work is being okay in the unknown. As an actor, there's very little. One of these questions in here somewhere is, what's one of the hardest things as an actor? It really is that living in the unknown, both within the work, on set and during the take, right, in the audition, really giving yourself over to having the experience, and then in life, there's very little you kind of can control. Tania, you're so funny. Please don't go bald. I'm sorry, what? I'm hoping that was a typo. I mean, How do I maintain chemistry? Well, it's all psyching myself in. One of the questions was, do I find it easier to be in relationship, with a male or female? It really doesn't matter. I've worked with people who I love, Jess Sayer being one of them. Oh my God. Best human in the world. That's another question. I have never met anyone, and I've told her this, in my life like Jess. She is just a good human, and is so kind and generous, and everything's collaborative. There's no ego, there's no competitive spirit, which unfortunately is look at the chat. Which unfortunately, can happen. But then I've worked with people that, we have not just gelled as humans, you're not everyone's flavor, right? However, you wouldn't know that if you watch the clips, because for me, again, that can be the freedom and the empowerment and the, I guess that's it. That can be the freedom and the empowerment. When I'm stepped into this other world, I'm not working with the actor. I'm looking at the human that I love inside this imaginary world. You can't make yourself feel a thing, but you can choose what you think, and you can activate yourself with talking yourself into something, and then it becomes real for you. We psych ourselves into and out of things all the time, and really that's all we're doing as actors. Really, you love how my brain works? That's very nice. hardest characters. Oh, they're so quick, guys. These are so quick. How did you discover Dr. Sophia, who Dr. Sophia Crane was and what made her different from other characters you've played? Well, again, it comes back to the clues in the script, doing the research, creating imagined memories. And to be honest, look, a big part for me was getting to kind of step into my masculine side. Look, as a little kid, I climbed the trees, played make-believe, running away from the bad guy with my dog, Jess. Because I lived literally there's about five houses on the road. You know what I mean? Like I lived out in the middle of nowhere. So I spent a lot of time kind of out in the woods, quite a tomboy, and would throw the boys around and play bull rush and kind of rip their shirts and stuff. I also, I was strong as a kid. But I've never really got to kind of step into that side of myself or tune myself into that in a role before, because kind of early on thank you. I'll talk about crackhead as well. Because early on, I kind of got cast type, in the uptight, pretty feminine, high heels type skirt type, boss lady slash bitch, really. And so once people see you do that thing, it's hard for them to kind of imagine you in any other way. So it was interesting. I had made a decision last year or maybe the year before where I was like, I really want to roll where I can. I mean, I envision detective, that's still going to happen. But I really want a role where I can step into that masculine side. And so a big part of it for me was, if I feel like a dude, then I'm in the right zone. Doing all the other work that I do, but feeling like a dude. Oh, and it was so fun. It was so fun to be in that place, with Maeve. Oh, thank you. Oh, you love Step Dave. Oh, and Julia. So, for example, with Julia and Step Dave, similar thing but different. Julia's a bit naughtier and a bit sillier and a bit kind of cheekier than any role I'd played before. I say role played because I don't really think about playing something. I know, very wanky. Sorry, guys. I really think about experiencing it. Yeah. And as I tell my students, annoying yet effective. Annoying yet effective. I'd made a decision. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of funny. I can be kind of funny in real life. Why on earth do I never get to sort of like be funny? Sure, in Go Girls there was humor, but I was kind of the straight man. The humor was because I was so psychotic. And but I was in LA at the time, living in the States at the time, and I'd made this decision. I was like, I want to do comedy and I want to kind of, explore that side of myself. Anyway, I learned through doing the short film. Look, it was fine. My work was fine, but I learned that, okay, definitely important not to try to be funny. And I realized, look, it really just has to be, rather than trying to be funny, it's like from the outside. Perhaps as a person, I'm trying to make someone laugh, or I'm trying to get away with the thing I'm saying. So when the audition for Julia came in, it was the first time I made this conscious decision to really like feel like me. So even though Julia is completely, different in many ways, I felt like myself the entire time. And all I did was sort of tune myself in. And that was sort of the beginning of that for me. And so I think that's what made her kind of fun and a little bit likable, even though she behaved horrendously. But, was always the hero of her own story, which is another very important thing. We are always justified in our decisions, even if we're making terrible ones. And that's important. That's what we have to do as actors as well. Never judge our behavior, but activate it. Give myself the reason and the justification for doing it, for taking the action that I take or saying the things that I say. Okay. How do you prepare for emotional and or intense scenes, and how do you separate yourself from a character once filming? Well, that's what I was talking about before. The separation happens because it lives in a different realm, and I just am aware that I might have a emotional hangover, if you will. In terms of how do I prepare for it? Well, it really depends on the scene itself. You are driving me slightly crazy, but I love it. I love it. Don't spill my coffee. I know thank you for that. It was a little bit too much to the side, wasn't it? I'm going to take another sip. Okay. There'll be a lot of creation around it. I will do a lot of research, a lot of filling that well, listening to real interviews with people who have gone through those sorts of things. This is all part of the practice that I teach as well, guys, in a structured way, but I'm just kind of giving you cliff notes, little teasers of what that is. Not the camera here, Tania. Here's the thing on set, guys. One of the hardest things, that was also a question in there, is the distractions. You know, it's so distracting. You've got crew members all around. You've got people coming in, giving you touch-ups. If I'm having to be in this like emotional place, and I'm having to break down about whatever's going on inside this imagined world, right? And then you got people talking all around you, crew members joking about, you know, what they did over the weekend or whatever, or just even sometimes other actors. Just chatting, shooting the shit when you're like having to get yourself into some sort of, you know, emotional turmoil. So much of it is about, zoning out the noise around you, you know, and keying into what's going on in this imagined world. So music is a big one. I'll put that in, and sometimes I'll be listening away to that while all the madness is happening around me, so I can just take it out just before I have to do that scene, have that conversation. I will also activate physically the running man, which is something that I coined. You guys can all try it if you want. Should we do it together? Just see what's going on in your body right now. You know, see how you're feeling. Imagine if you just had to kind of like storm into a room and be angry at someone, or have a fight, or imagine that you just, you know, saw someone that you love and that you feel some type of way about, and they give you all the goosebumps and the butterflies and all the things from this place, right? Now, see where that lives with you. Now, do this. Now, the trick is it's got to be tense. You can't just go, shake it out. You're really giving yourself that adrenaline. It's to build tension and energy, not to dissipate it. Right? So you give yourself that adrenaline, and then feel what's going on in your body, right? That your heartbeat has raised. There's like that adrenaline is flowing through. That can be channeled into so many things: excitement, anger, love, fear, a busy day in ED. You know, that coupled with the thoughts that you're having, that you're thinking inside, or sometimes audibly talking yourself into. Prerequisite of being an actor is being prepared to sort of look a bit crazy. Unfortunately, that is a prerequisite. And not give a damn. Give zero beeps about what other people might be thinking. You feel activated, there you go. Right? Much easier. Triggering, using that, all the things. And again, absolutely any stimulant you can use. So there is a thing called a tear stick, right? Which basically will help. I mean, it's just like menthol basically in your eye. A lot of people might freak out about that and think, oh my gosh, that's cheating. Well, the tear stick won't do anything if you haven't activated everything else. You'll just have liquid running down your face, but you won't feel like crying. You won't be feeling anything. It really is about utilizing all of these things. And sometimes I will use that and sometimes I won't. It really just depends on what's happening. And the thing is in screen, for example, you're having to do that thing take after take and keep going back to the start, living it like you haven't lived it before. You know, so you got to utilize all the things. I had a test. Oh no, this is too fast. Emotionally intense scene. How do you reconnect yourself? Well, that's the thing. You must have not heard the first part. There is no character. It lives for me, it's me in a different world, tuned into what's going on in that world. When I step out of that world, I'm in Tania's land. That lives there in that container. Any little feelings that I might have, I think of it like a hangover. I'm like, oh gosh. And I mentally know, oh, this is the hangover. This isn't you, Tania. You're feeling a little bit sad right now. And you're feeling maybe a little bit wrung out because of the party last night in the imagined world, you know? The mental sort of fortification between my world and what's going on in that imagined world. Mentally knowing that they live in different realms, you know? Which means I can step into that thing and out of that thing whenever I like. The key is that it's always me, my essence, my consciousness, so I can use my brain. Your brain's very important. If you don't use your brain, you're just an airhead. You know, your brain dead. Very important. Okay, let's go to the next pre-decided question, and we will see where we go with that. My goodness. Humanity. How do you find the humanity in the characters whose views or actions I personally disagree with? Well, that's the thing. I don't have to find the humanity because I'm already the human that's in there. I don't have to worry about freaking out about judging, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that that I'm being this person or behaving in this way, because it exists on a different realm. So all I need to do, whether I'm talking myself into being Mother Teresa or talking myself into the joy of snuffing the life out of someone. I know that sounds really intense. I use this a lot in class. And everyone's like, whoo, quiet. It's like that exists in a different realm. It's that whole idea of commit your sins on stage, right? But I will say on screen, commit your sins on screen. There's a safety in that container. What is the role that has challenged me the most, either emotionally or technically? Well, you know what, kids? It'd probably be Crane. Because of the, I made that good decision, but gosh darn it, did it mean I had to do a whole lot more work. This was also a question to really, anchor my voice a good, octave or two lower. So there's so much work in terms of that vocal muscle memory stuff and kind of like laying the physical kind of pathway for that. So just to be clear, I'm never ever practicing how I'm going to say something. That is the death of life. No human listens to the sound of their voice when they talk. It's more about activating why you want to say the thing. So I don't do that. It's more like just through the vocal exercises and through the imprint process that I've developed and that I use. I also had to add in some, now we talked about this the other day in class, trilling. Is that what it is? Vocal trilling. That I worked out halfway through that was the shortcut in. I was like, because I was doing this work to get my voice deeper, and then sometimes it would get stuck in the back of my throat. I'm like, what is happening? It would be so frustrating. And then I realized, I have to also work out my higher register so that it sort of hits that sweet spot. Also, just the tongue twisters, the things I would say as Crane, they don't roll off the tongue, But they had to roll off the tongue. And also the medical stuff. That stuff took a lot. There was a lot of me walking around this apartment, doing my imprinting, but also adding in walking in different directions and stuff. I wrote it down. We were talking about this in class the other day. Dual task cognitive motor training. Dual task cognitive motor training. So it helps improve that memory, What was my favorite Crane? Well, I didn't say any lines. I just said something I wanted to say. I know, favorite Crane line. Thanks, Gee. No lines. Oh gosh, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't really have a favorite one. My favorite, there was a question of what was my favorite scene to do. It probably would have been showing up at Maeve's apartment and, talking about the fight with Astrid. And what was kind of cool about that is the challenge for those last 4 episodes. So just a little window in, guys. For when we're filming, we'll be filming 4 episode blocks at a time. Often, all those ED scenes that you're seeing, we could have shot like 4 episodes worth of those ED scenes in one day. One after the other, after the other, after the other. That's what makes it so kind of, what's the word? Well, difficult is the word. Intense work. Prep intense. Also, because we move so fast in Shortland Street, it's not even as fast as it used to be. The other shows I've experienced, there's a good 40 minutes of a lighting setup between each scene. Here, you'd be lucky for 2 minutes sometimes, and so it's like you've done one thing and then you're on to the next. And if you've got the most to say in all of those scenes, right? It's a lot of prep you need to have done prior. Especially if you really want to live it, not just be struggling remembering lines while you're filming the thing. So there's that. Also, what can happen, you may have noticed, it's like you've got 4 or 5 scenes to sort of convey quite a huge story arc. In those last episodes, there's quite a back and forth in terms of that behavior. And so for me, it was really important to not have amnesia, so one, you're shooting it all out of order, and then for me, I want to map that. I want to connect the dots.